Hello and welcome to Uzreport World News. My name is Bardona Zarzoda. Uzbekistan's southeastern Andijan region will see 616 projects worth $1.4 billion. All projects, according to plans, will be implemented by the end of this year. President Hazrat Mir Ali Navoi on February 8 reviewed those projects. Marifat Abdusharipova has the details.
258 projects are set to be implemented in the industry sphere, 185 in the service sector, and 137 in agriculture. It is also planned to create $950 million production capacities. Local goods worth $95 million are expected to replace imports. Exports will amount to $265 million. Some 61,000 new jobs will be created. Mirziyoyev has noted the importance of increasing the number of enterprises based on public-private partnerships. He was also presented projects to be implemented in the Tashkent region. The region this year will see 355 projects worth $1.62 billion. Production capacities worth some $3.3 billion will be launched. 13,000 people will be provided with work. Goods worth $42 million will be exported.
In a bid to boost trade, Uzbekistan is increasingly showing interest in the joint use of Chabahar, Iran's sole oceanic port. But to what extent the government can benefit from it? Uzreport World's journalists try to gain the answer by interviewing Sanjeev Chaturvedi, advisor at India-Uzbekistan Entrepreneurship Development Center.
Uzbekistan has now become a very focal point of Central Asia. And due to this logistic issues and the logistic cost, that was the biggest hindrance for many investors coming from Southeast Asia. So with this port in functional in totality in coming years will give a great boost to the Uzbekistan economy. Already the Uzbek economy is opening up for foreign investments. They have moved to 69th position of ease of doing business, which is a very, very landmark, I would say, achievement for a country which is very small in number in population and which has recently opened their economy. I remember in 1991 when India became one of the open economies and we became member of WTO, World Trade Organization, in 1995. Uzbek government was also becoming a part of WTO. And a lot of issues has been discussed between Uzbekistan and WTO, which is a common international law of fraternity, I would say. And I think very shortly Uzbekistan will become a member of WTO. And once that happens also, then Uzbekistan will become the best destination of the entire Central Asia. It can be the focal point of all the countries which are adjoining, apart from some European countries where the exports can be done from Uzbekistan to European countries also.
A thermal power plant with a capacity of 240 megawatts will be constructed in Tashkent region. The corresponding resolution was signed by President Hazrat Mir Ali Navoi on February 2nd.
The construction and operation will be carried out by the Turkish company Cengiz Enerji Vatic and Genergo. In accordance with the document, National Electric Networks of Uzbekistan is committed to purchase electric energy from the company during the next 25 years and make payment in the national currency. The construction of the TPP is to raise Turkish investment of up to $150 million, create 500 new jobs during construction and 100 jobs during operation of the plant, and generate affordable electricity in the amount of 2 billion kilowatt hours per year. In the meantime, the Uzbek government earlier this year to set a target for cutting its reliance on thermal power electricity generation to 50% by 2030. It presently relies on thermal sources to meet more than 80% of its energy needs.
Jisak Petroleum, an oil and gas company focused on developing Uzbekistan's energy sector, has announced significant progress in construction of a new gas chemical complex based on methanol to olefins technology. The MTO project has no comparison in the CIS region based on both the planned scale and technical capabilities of the plant. When completed, the new state-of-the-art gas chemical complex is expected to process 1.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas per annum and manufacture more than 700 kilotons high-quality polymers used in many sectors of the worldwide economy. Successful completion of the project will further diversify Uzbekistan's economy, develop its domestic textile, chemical and parapharmaceutical industries, and reduce import levels into Uzbekistan. Spotify, a Swedish audio streaming and media services provider launched in October 2008, has been registered as a taxpayer in Uzbekistan, the Republic's State Tax Committee reports. According to some sources, that would mean that service payments now have to take into account a 15% VAT, but the service itself is not yet available in the country. The Tax Committee has set up a VAT office that allows foreign internet companies operating in Uzbekistan to register and start paying taxes. Spotify is available in most of Europe and the Americas, Oceania, and parts of Africa and Asia. Today, Spotify is the world's most popular audio streaming subscription service with 345 million users, including 155 million subscribers across 93 markets. According to Euroni.com, in 2020, Spotify recorded a turnover of 7.9 billion euros. The losses widened to 581 million from 186 million in 2019. Foreign Minister of Uzbekistan Abdulaziz Kamilov received Secretary General of Turkic Council Baghdad Amriyev on Monday. The meeting discussed bilateral cooperation in areas of mutual interest.
It was noted that the entry of Uzbekistan into the Turkic Council was a historic event in strengthening the unity and contributed to the disclosure of previously unused opportunities for mutually beneficial partnership. The importance of implementing the initiatives put forward by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev during the summits of the organization in 2019 and 2020 aimed at further developing multilateral cooperation within the framework of the Turkic Council was separately emphasized. An exchange of views took place on the schedule of upcoming meetings at the highest levels within the organization, including regular meetings of the Ministers of Tourism and Ministers of Youth and Sports that are planned to be held in Uzbekistan, as well as a forum of young entrepreneurs of Turkic-speaking states.
Every year on the 9th of February, the world community commemorates the birthday of Hazrat Mir Ali Navoi, a well-known writer, politician, linguist, mystic, painter, and sultan of poets. 2021 marks the 580th anniversary of the birth of Uzbekistan's great ancestor.
Exactly 580 years ago today, the great Turkish-speaking writer, poet, Sufi, scientist, politician and artist Ali Navoi was born in Herat in the Timurid Empire, today's Afghanistan. With over 3,000 poems and works in the Çağatay Turkish language, he is considered one of the greatest Turkish-speaking poets of all time. His works can still be found in many countries all over the world, especially in the Central Asian region and Turkey. The one who has been to Uzbekistan before knows that in the cultural heritage of Uzbekistan, Ali Navoi is as important as Amir Temur, Babur and Mirza Ulubek. His poems are still recited by many people all over the country. The fact that important institutions such as the National Library of Uzbekistan, the Museum of Literature, and the city of Navoi are named after Navoi shows that Uzbekistan carefully honors and preserves the heritage of this great poet.
Ali Navoi was the author who crossed regions, cultures and languages during his entire life. He was born in 1444 in Herat, modern Afghanistan, studied in Herat, Iran and Samarkand, and died in Herat, where he was buried. He was a polymath who constructed buildings, served the political power, and wrote in 3 languages. One of his most famous works is a judgment between the 2 languages.
The city of Tashkent, Uzbekistan's capital, is planned to become much greener and attractive starting from 2021. This initiative was announced at a press conference held on the upcoming construction works.
The project illustrates the improvement of the territory near the art gallery named Ali Navoi.
500
The number of mahallas is over 500. By October the 1st, we have planned to create playgrounds, workshops with exercise equipment, parking lots and football fields, as well as small libraries in each mahalla. In addition, we'll build more than 50 modern buildings of the mahalla committees. The main focus will be the construction of the first aviation fleet in the Republic. An aviation park or museum is an innovation. For example, there is a train museum in Mirabat district. It has models of early and modern trains. Thus, there will also be a park or an airplane museum as well.
Uzbekistan is planning to set up multi-brand chain of stores for the sale of domestic leather. This was noted in a decree signed by the president on additional measures for further development of the leather, footwear and fur industries. The document says that the Uzchamsanat Association made a decision to organize multi-brand stores in the regions of the Republic and other countries, specialized in the trade of leather products of domestic enterprises, as well as the creation of their electronic trading platform. In order to ensure the safe employment of Uzbek citizens abroad, the Agency of External Labour Migration negotiates with various potential employers from Russia and authorized organizations. As a result, those who seek work abroad are trained and tested before being selected.
About 200 labor migrants are now being sent to Russia. They have learned Russian and got jobs. Before being sent, they know where they will be working, how much they will be paid, and where they will live. Russia is not the limit. We are going to cooperate with Western countries like Germany and Canada as well. How did you know about the service? In Fergana, one company was seeking workers and we were tested. How long did the preparation take? I passed the exam and after 3 weeks we were called on departure.
Just 6 weeks out from Election Day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pleaded not guilty on Monday to corruption charges at the resumption of his trial at the heavily guarded Jerusalem District Court. Netanyahu is the first serving Israeli leader to be charged with a crime, but seemed intent on projecting an air of business as usual, thanking the court and leaving without explanation some 20 minutes into the session. He last came to court in May at the start of a trial subsequently delayed by lockdowns. Netanyahu is accused of bribery, breach of trust and fraud. There are allegations of gifts from millionaire friends and that he sought regulatory favours for media tycoons in return for favourable coverage in the press. He's called his prosecution a political witch hunt. Protesters demonstrated against the Prime Minister outside the courtroom, as well as outside his residence earlier in the day.
And we came here because we support the law and we support the justice system, and we believe that Benjamin Netanyahu, our Prime Minister, should stand trial like any other citizen in the state of Israel. He has escaped trial for a very long time.
Israel will hold its fourth parliamentary election in 2 years on March 23rd, with Netanyahu's handling of the health crisis and his alleged corruption the main issues stoking weekly protests against him. Opinion polls show the race too close to call. Netanyahu has been Prime Minister continuously since 2009, after a first term from 1996 to 1999.
The Georgia Secretary of State's office on Monday opened an investigation into former U.S. President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn his election loss in the state. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger had faced calls to open a probe after Trump was recorded in a January 2nd phone call pressuring him to overturn Georgia's election results based on unfounded voter fraud claims. Trump urged Raffensperger, a fellow Republican, to, quote, find 11,780 votes, the exact number he needed to win the state. A spokesman for Raffensperger said the probe was prompted by a Monday complaint filed by a law professor at George Washington University, the fourth request he had filed to investigate Trump's potential election interference. In a statement, Trump advisor Jason Miller said there was nothing, quote, improper or untoward about the call, adding that if Mr. Raffensperger didn't want to receive calls about the election, he shouldn't have run for Secretary of State. Legal experts have noted that if Trump were prosecuted, he would likely argue he genuinely believed the election was rigged against him, noting that criminal laws normally require guilty conscience or intent. The investigation is just the latest legal battle Trump faces since losing constitutional protections of the U.S. presidency, which shielded him from prosecution. Trump is also facing a criminal probe into his business dealings and several civil lawsuits. A Georgia election official says once their investigation is complete, the Secretary of State's office will write a report and present it to the state election board, who will then forward the matter to a local district attorney or the state attorney general.
A new space race is set for blastoff. But this time it's not America versus Russia, it's the world's two richest men going toe-to-toe. Industry sources say Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is set to focus more on his Blue Origin rocket business, with a view to putting progress into hyperdrive. The space launch company has fallen far behind competitor SpaceX. It's run by arch-rival Elon Musk, now the only man richer than Bezos.
Ignition and liftoff.
Blue Origin was beaten to billions of dollars in US contracts by the Tesla founder's firm. Now Bezos may have the time to change that. Last week he said he was stepping down as boss of the online giant to focus on personal projects. That's sure to include Blue Origin, which he has called his most important work. Bezos has been liquidating $1 billion of his Amazon stock every year to fund the project. Now the focus is NASA's planned return to the moon. Blue Origin hopes the space agency will choose its design for a lunar lander. Winning is seen as critical to the firm's credibility and its prospects for eventual profitability. But time is tight, with NASA due to winnow the list of possible contractors down to 2 by the end of April. Whatever happens, in the longer term, Bezos is thinking bigger, way bigger.
So my long-term prediction, and this is going to take hundreds of years, so don't worry prematurely, Earth will end up being zoned residential and light industry, and all the heavy industry will be done in space.
That is for the future, though. Right now, there is a space race to be won, and neither Jeff Bezos nor Elon Musk is known to enjoy coming second.
North Korea bolstered its nuclear and ballistic missile programs in 2020 using stolen funds, a violation of international sanctions, according to a confidential United Nations report seen by Reuters on Monday. The independent report concluded that North Korea stole some $300 million last year through cyber hacks. It added that Pyongyang has used the money to, quote, produce fissile material, maintain nuclear facilities, and upgrade their ballistic missile infrastructure. In the past year, North Korea boasted new ballistic missiles at military parades. Judging by the size of them, an unnamed UN member state assessed in the report that it's likely a nuclear device could be attached. Independent sanctions monitors compiled the annual report to the UN Security Council's North Korea Sanctions Committee, which comes just weeks after U.S. President Joe Biden took office. A U.S. State Department spokesperson said on Monday the Biden administration planned a new approach to North Korea. Alongside allies, the White House will review ongoing pressure options and the potential for any future diplomacy. Former President Donald Trump failed to make progress on negotiations with North Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Trump met 3 times in 2018 and 2019, but Pyongyang refused to give up its nuclear weapons. While there have been no nuclear or ballistic weapons tests in 2020, North Korea says they're preparing to test and produce new nuclear warheads.
3 weeks before the UK went into its first national lockdown in March 2020, Joseph Flavill was hit by a car. He's been in a coma ever since. Now, slowly emerging from it, the 19-year-old has no idea what COVID is, despite having had the virus twice.
I don't know how Joseph will ever understand our stories of this lockdown. I honestly don't know.
That's his Aunt Sally. She says his mum reckons Joseph will never believe tales of what living in a global pandemic for the last year has been like. Joseph suffered a traumatic brain injury when he was hit by the car in the central English town of Burton-on-Trent. His family say he lived for sport. COVID restrictions mean they haven't been able to sit by his bedside.
Now Joseph can hear us. We know he can hear us because he responds to small commands. So now we do chat to him about it. We're allowed 1 hour a day on FaceTime. And, you know, Sharon, who's Joseph's mum, will say to Joseph, I really want to be with you, darling. I'm sorry, I want to come and hold your hand. Don't be scared. Because obviously for Joseph, he's woken up and he hasn't got any of his loved ones around him. One of the most important things really for someone in a coma is that they have the stimulation of familiar sounds, familiar voices, and he hasn't got that. He just has a screen where we can dial in and try to reassure him through the screen.
Sally says he can now single with blinks to answer yes and no. His family has started a fundraising campaign to help support his long-term recovery.
Facebook said on Monday it will start removing false claims about vaccines from its platform. The social media company said in a blog post it would broaden its target of debunked health claims about the pandemic and vaccines in general. Some conspiracy theorists have falsely stated that the coronavirus was man-made and vaccines can cause autism. In recent weeks, news reports have identified these false claims spreading on Facebook pages, groups and Instagram accounts. Such claims are already prohibited in ads on the platform, and now user-generated content will also face further restrictions. The tech giant also said it will help users find out more about where to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Facebook's head of health, KX Jin.
We're going to be building features to help people find whether, where, and when they can get vaccinated, very similar to how we approached Vote last year. We're also bringing the COVID-19 Information Center to Instagram and expanding our WhatsApp helpline program to make it easier for people to get accurate information about the vaccine.
In the past, Facebook has taken a more hands-off approach to misinformation about vaccines in general. It has only removed posts that it considered at risk of causing imminent harm. Critics said this approach fueled the rise of anti-vaccine communities and rhetoric.
And this was our last report. Thank you for watching and goodbye.